Alright you guys, finally about to start the KA24DE turbo build. So, got all the parts ready, just picked up my gauges and mass airflow sensor, which were the last parts. And I already did a video unboxing the rest of the parts, so I'll leave a link somewhere if you want to watch that. Got the battery relocated, made a video on that as well. So the intercooler piping can come up here. And I got the fuel pump installed and hardwired. And yeah, today I'm just gonna jack up the car, drain the fluids, the oil and the coolant, take off the intake and exhaust, and just see how far I can get. Really, I'm just gonna keep working away at this over the weekend, and hopefully I can get it done over the weekend, which honestly I don't think it's gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Too many things go wrong always. There's a look at the engine before it has a nasty turbo on it. This is gonna be dope. Wow, it's still pretty green. Or piss yellow, I guess. Still pretty clean. There's a little bit of oil sitting right there, but this is completely dry. So that's good. Maybe that'll change with boost though. Pretty disgusting under here. So I want to get the oil pan off pretty quickly. I'm going to do that first because then I can find a welder and get them to weld the bung on it. But I got to lift the engine up to get the oil pan off. It's going to be kind of tricky to get out. And to get more clearance, actually I don't know if this is going to get me more clearance, but I have to block off my EGR anyways, so I might as well do it first. There's a pipe coming off the manifold there, the exhaust manifold, you can see. Goes back and around to the intake. Right here. So it comes back around there and then onto the manifold, the intake manifold. So I think there's 3 12 mils it looks like, and then I might have to chop it on that side, pull the whole thing out, and then I got a block off plate here. I think it's for fuel economy or something, but to keep it in I'd have to weld that pipe onto the down pipe or something, and it's just a hassle. It's easier to get rid of it. Got PV blaster. I already sprayed everything on the manifold, but I'm gonna do it again. This is just a really good penetrating oil, so it eats through rust, makes them easier to come off. And you also want to spray the injectors. Apparently these guys, I already sprayed them like not too long ago, so I'm gonna leave it, but apparently these are kind of hard to get out, and you do not want to strip those. So yeah, get some PB blaster. Taking a Sawzall to right there, as far up as I can get it really. This canister thing is mounted on this bracket. I took off the bracket first, then made it easier to get these off, and then ripped the vacuum line off, which was freaking on there good, just like everything else in this car. Finally, throw that in the junk pile. That's what it looks like off. Where this vacuum line goes, I'm not exactly sure what to do about that. I think you just cap it, but I'll have to figure that out. got a small cap to slip over that. So onto the oil pan, what I'm going to do is disconnect the engine mounts, both of those, from the bottom, and then maybe loosen up the transmission mounts, and then I'll start jacking up the engine, probably from like the bell housing. Break all the oil pan nuts loose, might have to drop the sway bar, and then try and pull the oil pan out. Alright you guys, remove those transmission brackets because they're in the way of a couple of the oil pan bolts. So I guess I can see where my leak's coming from, somewhere over there it looks like. But yeah, I got those brackets off, and now I'm just gonna start breaking them all loose, and then I'll start jacking it up and try and pull this thing off. Got the sway bar dropped down, so that's out of the way before it was all the way up there, and I'm ready to jack up the engine. Got it right on the bell housing there. Start jacking. Finally got it. I was trying different things. You're not supposed to pry it with a screwdriver, so I was kind of trying, but I was being really careful. I wasn't getting anywhere with that, so I started smashing again. You just gotta follow through, man. I was just hitting it here hard as I could, two-handed. You don't have much room, so you gotta boom. My neck freaking kills from being under here. So now I gotta remove up the oil pickup, which is 2 10 or 12 mils right here. What's the hold up? That was a hassle. Gonna have to clean that all up, that whole surface, before putting it back on. Got that all clean. It's actually really hard to get back there. Alright, it's a new day. Probably slept in a little more than I should have, but we're back at it. Yesterday I finished cleaning up the oil pan and the underside. Right now what I want to do is take off the manifold, and we'll probably drop the engine back down in place. Get the manifold off, assemble the turbo manifold and the turbo, because before I go meet the welder I want to make sure. They gave me this hot pipe with the blow-off valve flange on here, which doesn't work. I have to get the HKS blow-off valve flange added on, welded on. So I just want to fit this, I'm not sure which way it goes, and make sure that this is in a spot I want it, and if not, then I'll have to get this capped and get the flange welded on somewhere else. So yeah, that's what we're doing now. So much crap for the intake. Look at that. Is that necessary? I don't think so. So for cleaning the block here, it's aluminum, so you got to make sure you use plastic or else you will scrape it and damage it. You might not seal properly if you use a razor or something metal. So use plastic. Gasket removal will help if you have some, but I don't, so I'm just using WD-40, wiping it and scraping. This gasket, I'm not sure if you can see that or not, is split, so that could be bad. It's been bent there, but I mean the other gaskets, or just those guys, I mean if it doesn't seal, I'm going to use it. If it doesn't seal, I'll just get them to send me a new one. So I'm going to try and fit the front mount intercooler right now. Gotta try and take the bumper support off. So looks like there's a bolt there on either side, and there's one there, and maybe here, and yeah, I gotta disconnect the fog lights. Hopefully I can still use them after, but looks like that's what they mount to, so I don't know. Oh, ouch. A lot more room. With that off, got to remove the horn, probably this thing that holds, I don't know what that is. These 10 mils on the headlight supports, and then you put a bracket on there that came with the intercooler. That's where you mount the bottom of the intercooler to, and then the top you mount right here. Bam. These guys go somewhere on here so that the intercooler can sit on there. Well, I got this guy in, but those brackets on the bottom don't fit properly. They're too wide, so I don't know, I have to do something about that. But this one pipe fitted just because I wanted to see if it fits. Looks like it's going to go right there. And then this will go something like that. So being a 240 owner, I had to put zap straps to use. It's actually really solid though. Like, it's not moving anywhere. And eventually I'll just cut these and get someone to weld it right here. And I'm taking my oil pan to my buddy to get the bung welded on. I just got the fitting on there to make sure it'll fit. So I'm gonna drill a hole either here or here. I want to drill here, but it's not so flat, and then there's this bracket behind it. So I think I'm gonna go here. Yeah. Alright, I'm finally back in the garage. Got the drain bung welded on there. I don't need to paint it in there because oil's always going to be in there. And paint out here. I got a little bit of materials. Picked up some gasket maker, 300ZX Z32 fuel filter, oil filter, and vacuum caps so I can cap off that one vacuum with. Oh yeah, I got a bunch of these. They sent me the ISR kit. I think they were missing some bolts or some studs. They didn't send me any studs for the downpipe to the turbo, so I got these. This is what they're supposed to be. This one's from the kit. They didn't have those, so I got them off-centered. Hopefully they'll work. I'm not sure. If they don't, then I don't know. I'll have to go somewhere else, I guess. Some crush washers so that it doesn't vibrate loose, and some nuts. So I'm gonna make sure that it's all clean under there, all clean on here, and then I'm gonna lay some gasket and smush it back on there. Alright guys, oil pan is on. Surgery went well. Should not leak. You can see a consistent bead coming out the sides there. Got it finger tight right now. Leave it for an hour and then torque it down. Then I'll put those brackets back on. I got the sway bar hooked back up, and it'll be good. So you can see where the drain is. That's the front of the engine right here. Drain's right there, right in front of the engine mount. I'm gonna thread this fitting on. So I definitely need to get a 90, which sucks. Hopefully they'll take this fitting back. That's $29 for that freaking thing. So I'm never gonna use it anywhere else. But I need it to be going right up there, or right over there. I don't know exactly, but that is not gonna work. Oil pan is finally done. Oil pan's torqued. I got the sway bar back up. The engine mounts are torqued. The transmission to engine mounts are torqued. Transmission mounts are torqued. And yeah, then finally move on to the fun stuff. Exhaust manifold, turbo, and all that good stuff. No more laying on the ground.